The so-called Nuremberg Code is a central, currently applied ethical guideline for the preparation and implementation of medical, psychological, and other experiments on humans. With the Nuremberg Code, a clear legal guideline was created, which is to be applied for the field of medical human experiments. It draws the line between experiments and a crime against humanity. This code is part of international law and is therefore valid internationally. The first 5 points of the code were given in the section of the judge's verdict entitled Permissible Medical Experiments. 1. The voluntary consent of the human subject is absolutely essential. This means that the person involved should have legal capacity to give consent, should be so situated as to be able to exercise free power of choice without the intervention of any element of force, fraud, deceit, duress, overreaching, or other ulterior form of constraint or coercion, and should have sufficient knowledge and comprehension of the elements of the subject matter involved as to enable him to make an understanding and enlightened decision. This latter element requires that before the acceptance of an affirmative decision by the experimental subject, there should be made known to him the nature, duration, and purpose of the experiment, the method and means by which it is to be conducted, all inconveniences and hazards reasonably to be expected, and the effects upon his health or person which may possibly come from his participation in the experiment. The duty and responsibility for ascertaining the quality of the consent rests upon each individual who initiates, directs, or engages in the experiment. It is a personal duty and responsibility which may not be delegated to another with impunity. 1. The experiment should be such as to yield fruitful results for the good of society, unprocurable by other methods or means of study, and not random and unnecessary in nature. 1. The experiment should be so designed and based on the results of animal experimentation and a knowledge of the natural history of the disease or other problem under study that the anticipated results will justify the performance of the experiment. 1. The experiment should be so conducted as to avoid all unnecessary physical and mental suffering and injury. 1. No experiment should be conducted where there is an a priori reason to believe that death or disabling injury will occur, except perhaps in those experiments where the experimental physicians also serve as subjects. By the way, all vaccines against COVID-19 that have been or are being applied to us are still in the experimental phase and, without exception, fall under the application of the Nuremberg Code.